podcast is a member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com.
This is Tim Kask. I survived Gen Con. Did you? You're here for Save or Die. Hey, tell me again, why didn't you guys get an Emmy nomination?
You burst through the door to find a small room filled with gold and jewels and a red dragon. He starts to breathe. Save or die! I'm on 20s like I'm 60 living pilot. AC doesn't matter. Critical damage from my warhammer. I drove a beat to against every single from them. Cause all of my money blow. I lay 'em low, yes I lay 'em low.
Welcome to the Save or Die podcast, a podcast about classic Dungeons and Dragons.
Bring on your goblin holes and band of oaks, hulking zombies and foes. And oh no, no, troll, don't slow me down, oh no. Don't be a vicious.
Taco, everybody. It's DM Mike with the Save or Die podcast, Side Adventure 11.
Oh.
Or 10, actually, I guess.
It's a number.
It's a number where we're talking about one of the newer conventions that have come up, Gamehole Con. And as usual, I am joined by DM Jim.
I cast Audible Podcast.
And DM Liz.
Hello, hello.
And the coordinator of the convention, Alex. Okay, let's get this. Is it Kammer?
Kammer.
Okay.
Stout German name.
Kammer. Okay, we're not going to do a Janelle.
We're not going to do a Janelle where we mispronounce her name for the entire episode, and then at the very end she says, "Oh, by the way."
Well, I was going to say, she let us mispronounce her name for a whole episode.
Oh, well. So, Alex, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm a fan of this podcast, so it's an honor to be here.
Well, thank you.
Aw.
But let's get right to the nitty-gritty. What was the thoughts behind Gamehole Con?
Yeah, that's a expansive question. The several-fold, I guess. First of all, I can start by explaining the weird name, because I will be the first to admit that it is a weird name. The Gamehole is a gaming group here in Madison, Wisconsin. That's where Gamehole Con takes place. And it's myself and a handful of knuckleheads, and we've been playing essentially first edition D&D forever. And the physical location of our game room was in my basement, subterranean. And so it's kind of like a hobbit hole. So we started calling it the Gamehole years ago. And so we've been calling ourselves the Gamehole as a game group for a long time. Then Gen Con up and left Milwaukee, and without asking us at all, which was but they went and did that. I know. I'm still burned about that. But anyway, so they moved on to Indianapolis, as we all know, and that left a pretty big void here in the upper Midwest as far as a gaming con that we really liked. There's some other good ones in the neighborhood. Of course, Gary Con is probably the big one. I'm very involved in Gary Con. In fact, I'm actually on the board of that one now. But that's another topic for another day. So we decided that looking around the table, looking at the group of guys that we had and gals, that wouldn't it be fun? And I think we have the skill sets to put together a convention. And we started talking with a couple of the local store owners about it, and they, of course, thought it was a great idea. And we started, and our first show was in 2013, and we started in a hotel, the Madison Sheraton, and put together for a first-year con a great show, quite frankly. I think it was, we had probably 250, 240, something like that, gaming events, almost 500 attendees, and some of the we also have the advantage here being in South Central Wisconsin of being close to some of the real luminaries of the industry who live basically in our neighborhood. So, we knew Frank Mensner and Jim Ward and Ernie Gygax, folks like that were willing to come up and take a run at some weird sounding convention in Madison because it worked in their schedules, and they came, and I think they were pleasantly surprised by how organized we were and that it was actually a thing. And it went really well. And then last year was our second year where we eclipsed 750 attendees. And so now we have moved to the big convention facility here in Madison called the Alliant Energy Center. And we've taken a piece of that, and we're anticipating somewhere in that 1,200 attendee range this year.
So that is pretty good, because in 3 years, that's as big as GaryCon.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, and I have to, Luke is a very good friend of mine, and I have to give Luke Gygax, and I have to give, some props to him for helping us out from ground zero. I mean, he was such a gentleman, and he was willing to help us with his con. And so that's why I'm very vested in GaryCon and doing everything I can to help them as they transition to bigger space and more complexity. And they have some sort of back end issues that we've conquered based on the composition of our group. We've got accountants and lawyers and stuff like that in our group, so we're good at putting together. We're good at organization. So
I appreciate that, because Luke is one of my 3 bosses.
That's true. Yeah.
In a very public manner, you appreciate that.
So that's where we came from, and that's where we are, I guess, today in sort of a short spiel.
Okay. On a side note, did you ever attend any of the Milwaukee Game Fests that was trying to go up in Milwaukee right after Gen Con left?
No, I didn't. I've been to some of the Cold Iron things, and I regularly attend those. That's a little different, but I didn't take any of those in.
Yeah, I think they only ran for 2 years, like 01 or 02 or something, and then they kind of fell.
Yeah.
But we were at the first one, so I just wasn't sure if we may have passed each other in the hallway or something.
Yeah. Nope. I let those ones slip past me.
Okay.
I got to meet Alex for a split second at Gen Con.
Well, yeah, Jim and I literally ran into each other. I mean, it was almost a bowl over kind of deal. And I said, "Oh, hey, Jim," because of course we have Jim is one of our many guests this year, and so I have his picture on our site, so I of course knew who it was that I ran into it the instant I did. So that was
your
fun.
mugshot.
Yeah.
Sorry to mess up your website that way, but
no, you grace us with there's some pretty interesting mugs on there. So yeah, you're fit. You beautify it, quite frankly.
It's all good.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the guest list of Gamehole Con, because Gamehole Con is part of kind of a trifecta of old school gaming conventions with GaryCon, North Texas Con, and Gamehole Con. And I know you guys, the guys that run all 3 cons, you guys talk together and strategize about how to market the cons together. But Gamehole Con is more widespread. Like, where North Texas Con is very focused on RPG and GaryCon is very dedicated to old school tabletop. Gamehole Con is more wide open than that. 47 special guests, and roughly half are old school, and then there's some other people, more
True.
like Pathfinder Society and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I guess what we wanted to do, it was try to be a gaming convention that serves all tabletop gamers, where we're not interested in straying into fandom or anime or really even cosplay, and that's all fine. It's just not our convention. We're a tabletop gaming convention, and we always viewed it as the 4 pillars of tabletop gaming being RPGs, board games, miniatures, both historical and contemporary, things like Warhammer and War Machine, and collectible card games. Now, that's
I was with you until number 4.
That's the smallest part of our convention, and we let a few of those events go on, but it's just not a. You all know that the collectible card gamer is a different animal, and they don't really play well with others necessarily, and so they usually have their own PTQs and all that kind of thing, and so they're not really convention goers anyway. So they're
kind of in their own habitat. You got
right. But
I better make sure I'm clear before the forums get fired up over this. I kid. I don't care what you play.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's what we're trying to make sure that every type of gamer, tabletop gamer, has a place and is welcome at our con. We're not hyper focused on one type or the other. Although, we do skew in the direction of RPGs. I was just looking at our games list, and we're over 700 game events, and we have I think we have 435 RPG events, which is insane. So it represents. I was just looking through the list. That's crazy, that the array of RPGs. I mean, I would be hard pressed if there's one that you guys can name that we don't have. I mean, it's bizarre, but it's great for the RPGer, especially old school or new school. So if you're into,
Bunnies and Burrows.
Got it.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, I'm looking here. Fringeworthy. I mean, we have Microlight. It's someone put something called Mutant Crawl Classics. I'm not sure what that is, but
Sounds lame.
It'll be some weird fad.
Yeah, yeah. No, we have. It's pretty cool. I mean, this is a convention that I need to figure out a way to attend instead of not being behind the desk, because the quality of games here is just outstanding, and I would dearly love to fill up a full schedule and just roll dice the whole weekend with these kind of games.
That's something Bad Mike has said about his own games or his own convention. That he really wishes he could actually enjoy North Texas instead of spending all the time, helping to run it. One thing I did want to mention, I was pretty impressed to see, not only do you do the convention, but you have a charity partner that, some of the funds go to help out a specific charity. And that's not something that I see with an awful lot of gaming conventions.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I guess from the get-go, let's back up when you started talking about why we did this. The motivation has never been profit. All of us that are doing this have jobs. And this is truly we're gamers, and we love gaming, and we love convention gaming. And we just wanted to put on the best type of tabletop gaming convention that we could. And we didn't want the bottom line to get in the way, and that's very similar. You folks know Mike, obviously, and North Texas. They have a very similar ethos. A similar ethic. And
North Texas does it, and they were the first one that I had noticed doing that before. But I didn't really pay a lot of attention to gaming conventions in the past because usually they were too far away for me to go to. So, but when they started so close to where we lived, it's like, oh, and they, donate some of their stuff to, a charity, which is every year. And, then Gamehole, has a charity partner as well. It's like, I like that. I really
Is Gary gone, Jim?
Not to my knowledge.
Not yet, and stay tuned. I'm working on that one.
Oh, okay.
But
all I know is nobody's asked me to make a T-shirt for one yet, so I can tell you that.
Last year we choose a charity partner each year. Last year it was Second Harvest, which helps address hunger in the South Central Wisconsin area. That was great to be able to give them a check for several $1,000s. This year it is a charity called World Builders, which is the charity created by the author Pat Rothfuss, who is a Wisconsinite and a really good guy, and so we wanted to help out his charity. And the focus of that charity is to teach sustainable farming in Africa, and a great charity, and one that is, charities are all over the board as far as how many dollars actually reach their intended folks. And World Builders is outstanding. I mean, Pat does it purely out of love and interest in helping mankind. So there's no the administrative costs are very low. So we're very happy to help them, and it enables us to do some very cool things. For example, this year we have created a custom owlbear plushie, and the very cool and funny artist John Kovalik, who does all the Munchkin art, is a guest of ours, and he designed the owlbear, and it is awesome, just awesome. And 50% of the profits of that are going to World Builders. So it's made, it gives us some impetus or some energy to do things that are a little more nutty than we normally would. So we're now going to probably do a goofy old school monster plushie each year, and half the profits will go to some charity each year because it's cool and it's a super fun thing, and it does good. And if you can have fun and while you're helping people, I mean, that's just the best. You can't beat that.
If you do a plushie kobold, I guarantee Liz and Mike will be there.
I will sell a kidney to get there if I have to.
As long as it looks like a puppy, right?
Yeah, it has to look like a puppy.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, scale.
Hey, Alex, before we get too deep into the details of the convention, let's assume that some of our listeners aren't aware of Gamehole Con and just cover some of the basics, like when is it, and is registration open yet? If not, when will it be?
Yeah, sure. No, that's a great point. Yeah, we're every November in Madison, Wisconsin. Madison's the capital of the state here. Nice airport, not a huge one, not like O'Hare, but a nice airport. So this year we are November 6, 7, and 8 in Madison, Wisconsin. The website is gameholecon.com. And badge sales have been going on since June 1st, and they're doing really well. And the important date that's coming up is event registration starts on September 5th at noon Central Standard Time. So if you've ever attended Gen Con, we have a feature that's similar but works better, and that is a wish list. So you can go through our games list and build your schedule. And when noon Central Standard Time comes around on the 5th, you click execute and bang, you have your games. And it's ranked by priority, so you put the ones that you really want first. For instance, if you want to play in a game with Ed Greenwood or Steve Jackson or someone, you put the game that you want first, or Jim Wampler, you put that first, and then you back priority down the list and you execute it, and the system sorts it out and you get your schedule. And if you need to backfill, it's very easy. So this is the time to quite frankly, to get a badge. And if you really want to have the premium games, have your badge purchased before September 5th, so you can take part in the avalanche of registrations, which will be taking place on September 5th.
Well, I can say, just listening from your description, the registration system is definitely superior to North Texas's. Sorry, Bad Mike.
And I hope Luke's not listening, because so far better than Gary Con. I know they're working on it for this next one, but
that's part of it. I'm trying to help with that too, and actually with both cons. I mean, those guys are all such good friends, and I think that it's like anything else. When you have someone that comes on the scene that's doing some aspect of something better than you are, that's good. Because it makes everyone else look around and say, how can we improve? And so I'm working with Doug and Mike on their site. I'm working with Luke and company on their site, trying to help them. And then got a designer to work with Luke, and I think things are going in the right direction. Because it's so frustrating to have a crash when you are an attendee. Makes me crazy. I just hate it. It's second only to standing in line for me.
Presumably, the Gamehole Con registration server is not going to think at midnight when the registration activates that it's a DDoS attack, right? Because that's what happened. That's what happened to us last year.
Yeah, I know. Well, we've done some. We've spent some money on infrastructure. Every dime that we make, we go put it back into the con, and we have some elaborate cloud-based server now that. Man, we could run Gen Con. Quite frankly, we have that kind of processing power. So I'm doing everything in my power here to jinx us, aren't I? This is going to probably be an epic flaming failure. But
taunt the gods.
So the main takeaway here is Alex Kammer is prepared to take over Gen Con. You heard it here first.
Well, Peter Atkinson's one of our guests, so let's not we'll let that one slide for now. But and those, I tell you what, Peter and company are great too. I mean, they've been such nice partners for us. I mean, they've done Facebook posts for us. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, it's such a nice community that we're part of. The gaming convention circuit are a bunch of nice people, and that's really cool to be part of that group.
Yeah, I've been surprised how there's not so much competition as mutual support, it seems, among the crowds that run the various conventions.
Well, if you do it out of love, if you do it because you really love the hobby, we all want to grow it. And it's the classic rising tide lifts all boats kind of principle. I root for, North Texas is probably the one where I don't want to see get a lot bigger because it's such a neat little convention. And the fact that Doug is so focused on keeping it at 300 people, right. I think is neat. But,
Doug's goal isn't even North Texas Con is beyond not-for-profit. His only financial goal is not to get divorced.
Yeah, exactly.
But I assume then, for those people who are familiar with North Texas, there is no upper limit that you're aiming for with Gamehole Con.
Well, yeah, we haven't reached it yet. What it'll be is when myself and my first of all, I have a great group of guys and gals who work with me. I'm not doing this by myself. That'd be insane. When we get to the point of maxing out our own time, where it's interfering, it's taking so much of our time, and it really is a year-round project already, which is great, and I love it. But if it gets to the point where we're straining our own resources, when we have to think about hiring people and stuff like that, when it gets to that level, that's probably when we're going to think about, I don't know, capping it or whatever. We haven't gotten there yet, but there probably is an upper limit. We have no aspirations to be Gen Con or some massive, 50,000 person con. That's crazy. I mean, the logistics of that. I had the privilege of being able to go behind the scenes at Gen Con this year and go in their war room. Oh my gosh! I mean, that's crazy what they have going on, trying to keep that monster rolling. My life is complicated enough. I don't need that.
Yeah.
Well, considering the exhibition halls, the convention centers that are available to you in the Madison area, I mean, how big could you conceivably get, do you think, before you started to strain the resources?
Yeah, that's great. A great question. We're at the Alliant Energy Center now, which is a great, modern, very scalable facility. Now, the problem with convention halls, and if you've been to Gen Con, you know this, the big, wide open halls are terrible for gaming. They're just it's a din. It's so loud. And so the key for us is having good, scalable space where, you can have, 10 tables in a hall, but not, 500. That's nuts. So we can probably, looking at what we have for this year, we could probably get to 4,000 to 5,000 and be in really good shape. There are 5 immediate hotels that surround the convention center, and there are another 6 or 7 about within half a mile. So we can get to that number. Beyond that, and we don't want to move to any other city. This is where we live, so this is where it's going to be. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the range, but until we get there, I don't know for sure. But I think that's probably about it.
Okay.
If you flew into the hotel, sorry, this will be my last logistics question.
No, no problem.
If you flew into Madison from the airport, the hotels and the convention center, could you get a shuttle directly to any of the hotels so that you wouldn't have to deal with car rentals, or is that something that you would have to take into consideration as well?
There are the hotels that we do work with have shuttles.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's something that works. And also, this is a cool thing that there are some of our attendees have set up on their own a Madison area gamers who are willing to shuttle people. That was amazing. I couldn't believe that they were doing that. And so that's pretty neat too. But yes, the hotels themselves do have shuttles because they're used to taking people back and forth to the airport all the time. So that's no big deal for them.
For those driving in, what's the weather likely to be like in early November?
It's nice. It's still it's very rare that we get snow that time of year. Very rare. It's usually we don't even get that kind of weather until past Thanksgiving. So it's going to be, it's usually going from late October where it's in the sort of the high 50s into the high 40s. That right around that week. We try to be in early November for that reason, so we can even maybe peak some at 60s, but into the probably between the 40s and 50s. That's usually the weather. Sweet. And usually no snow. Yeah. So you guys should be good driving in, I hope.
Okay. Well, as you're no doubt aware, Saber Die predominantly is listened to by old school gamers. So as an old school gamer wanting to go to Gamehole Con, what would be there for their interest?
Yeah. Well, we have I think, as complete of a slate of old school gaming guests, first of all, as there is. And I guess it depends on where exactly you draw the line at old school gamers and gaming guests. When I look at TSR and the iterations it went through, for me, of course, you have the original folks like Tim Kask and Frank Menser and so on. But I also include the second wave of people like Ed Greenwood or Steve Shend or I'm pulling a blank on a few other people, but that's
Jim Ward, Steve Cheneau, Chris Clark.
Yeah, exactly.
Ernie and Luke Gygax.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I guess I should have clarified that because OSR is one of those terms that I think everybody's got their idea of the dateline point to. Before that is old school, after that is new school.
Yeah, and that's it seems to be a little bit of a moving target for me. But so I include certainly folks like Merle Rasmussen, who's coming. David McGarry, who invented Dungeon, the board game, is coming.
Oh, cool.
You mentioned the Gygaxes, both Luke and Ernie are coming. We have Tom Wam, who doesn't go to anything other than Gary Con and Archon. Frank, we mentioned Jim Ward. You mentioned
Jolly Blackburn, who goes everywhere all the time.
Jolly. Yep. That's true. He puts on the miles. But
was he in North Texas?
No, because he went to Origins. That same weekend.
Oh, okay.
But Alan Hammock, so and then it just depends on what. These things are relative. Those are the folks that I consider old school gamers. But for the younger RPG player, they might look at Jonathan Tweet and Rob Heinzu, the architects of 3.5 and into 4, as old school game. I don't know. Monty, actually, he's going to be one of our guests for 2016 next year. We already have him lined up.
Okay.
But yeah, so we have lots of old school gaming guests, and I guess Steve Jackson, when you want to talk about a pillar of this industry, he certainly has to be included in that conversation. In fact, we're going to have an Ogre tournament.
Sweet.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. I love Ogre. I think it's a fantastic game. And then when it comes to then. And that's cool, and that we have these guests. And speaking of our guests, first of all, also this is something that bugs me about conventions, is that they advertise a slate of guests, but then you never get to see them unless you want to stand in line and wait for them and get a signature or something. That's nonsense. I hate that. So what we do is when people sign on to be guests, they agree that they have to be at the convention. They don't get to come down, run a game, or do a signing and then go to their room. So we have a lounge actually set up for them on the floor, so they can be on the convention floor all the time and to mingle with our guests. I mean, it still is a small convention, even 1,000 people with the amount of space and the amount of guests we have. If you want to have 5 minutes with Jim Ward, if you want to have 5 minutes with Chris Perkins, if you want to chat with Alan Hammock, you can do that. I mean, that's because I want to do that. I'm a fan, as big of a fanboy as anyone, and so that's important to me and important to our guys when it comes to conventions, to our convention, that you have a chance to meet those people.
No lines, no take a number, no,
absolutely not.
Quick word of advice: keep Doug Kovacs out of that lounge, because he's a complete menace to society. He'll wreck it.
We have
everybody will have a great time, but it'll get wrecked.
We have a.
Why is he carrying an IV in there?
Reception that we exactly. We have a reception on Thursday night for all our guests, and it's at a pub that I own. And so I'm very familiar with Doug's abilities.
Okay.
I'm very, very familiar. So then when it comes to the gaming events, I mean, I talked about the number of RPG games alone. I mean, we have, if you want to get into a Metamorphosis Alpha game, you'll be able to get into one. We have probably 40 AD first edition games, probably 20 second. We have tons of DCC. We have tons of. We actually, I think we have something like 15 OD&D games. There are a whole slate of OSRA games. Then you want
Castles and Crusades, probably.
Tons of Castles and Crusades. Let me look that up here.
Well, Steve's there, so yeah, I'm sure he's at least running a couple.
Yeah, I think we're certainly over 10. We have over 10 Hackmaster because of Jolly and company. He's bringing a bunch of people. So when it's and then of course RuneQuest, bunch of Savage Worlds. Wow. I'm really excited.
I haven't played RuneQuest in forever. That would be awesome.
I love RuneQuest. That's one of my favorites. I think it's one of the more realistic RPGs out there. But I'm looking forward to meeting Robert Schwab with the Shadow of the Demon Lord. I've kind of futzed around with the play test of that, and that seems like a really cool game. But so I'm looking forward to meeting him and seeing that. But we have a theme also each year, and it's Call of Cthulhu this year. So we have a ton of Call of Cthulhu. We have one of the bigger Call of Cthulhu groups out of Chicago, where we're going to be running rounds in a tournament all weekend long, and then we have a lot of other really cool Call of Cthulhu games. That's always my go-to when I go to when I run games. When I go to Gary Con or North Texas, I always run a Call of Cthulhu game, because I think you can be weird and it's easy, and you don't need to. It's such a fun game to pick up for players that may not be super experienced with RPGs. Anyone can play it,
and it's ideal for con play because your characters go nuts or insane. Well,
exactly.
You got 4 to 6 hours, so what?
Exactly. But so if you have some boutique game, like you want to play Empire of the Petal Throne, you can play that here. This Cyberpunk, whatever it is that of old school RPG that turns you on, I would be stunned if you can't find it here.
Okay.
Sweet.
Well, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions?
What sort of special events are going to be run at Gamehole Con aside from the gaming events?
Yeah, we have. Ours is we try to have our convention be, I think we succeed at being a higher energy, up-tempo kind of con. So we have a lot of goofy stuff that we do. For example, on the convention floor, we have the local Dane County roller girl teams rolling around, and they're passing out.
Wait, what?
Yes, you heard
That's
correct.
Awesome.
Yeah, and what they do is, our motto is game harder. And they have rubber sort of Lance Armstrong bracelets. And when they see people gaming that they're really into it, they give them one of these bracelets. That's kind of one of the things that we do. We have live music at our con. We have a stage that's set up, and that has everyone from Dan the Bard, Lords of the Trident. So we sort of have across the musical genres that are going to be playing. We're doing something else this year that's going to be fun. We have a group of players who are putting on a murder mystery dinner, and that's a separate ticket that you can buy, and it's at a nearby hotel, and it's a Star Trek versus Star Wars theme. And it's a 3-course dinner, and they're going to play this thing out, and that's it's going to be pretty cool.
God, what a nerd argument that will be.
No kidding.
Which, by the way, let me go ahead and get some emails. It's Star Trek every time, because they have faster than light weapons on the Enterprise. Bye Empire.
I wonder if they could put that up streaming on YouTube or something. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. And these are very experienced. This is a very experienced group. They do a lot of productions locally, and they're very well thought of. So I'm excited about it.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think it's going to be cool. Another feature we have, I don't mean to. This sounds like I'm bashing on Gen Con, but I'm not. They have a great games library at Gen Con, the Gen Con Games Library, run by Lee Mail. To get into that, if you go to Gen Con, you have to buy a bracelet, and then you go and you can play games. We have that same library, the Gen Con Games Library, for free for all our attendees. So if you're in our con, you can go. They have their separate hall. You can go check out any board game you want and play it for as long as you want.
Awesome.
Another event that I'm really excited about, because I have little kids. We have a miniatures paint and take, and they have
I love those.
That's super fun, and we expand it every year, and we have their 15 tables, and you can sit down, grab a miniature, paint. They'll if you need instruction, they'll help with that. I certainly do, and then they will. You can pick it up later when it dries. Of course, that's all free. So stuff like that. We try to do kind of nutty stuff. When you walk into our lobby, there'll be game demos going on right there. That's free space for different vendors. I should mention that we have a very big vendor hall. We have 35 different vendors and 6 artists. So we have easily the biggest dealer hall in the Midwest, second only to
That
Gen
does
Con.
remind me, at the risk of sounding old, are there any of the quote-unquote traditional con things going on there, like an art show, raffles, any stuff like that?
We don't do a raffle. And the reason why we don't do a raffle is because we wanted to the backbone of any gaming convention, at least we feel, is the DMGMs, the people who volunteer to run games. So what we do with all the con support that the very nice publishers out there send us, we do a DMGM raffle. So, and for every slot, we do for everyone who's running a game in a certain slot, if they throw their tickets into a hat, and we pull, and so they get great stuff, hardbound books, board games, all that kind of stuff. So we try to get all that stuff to the great folks who make our convention happen. I mean, that's why we have over 700 games. That's just still I'm still kind of getting my mind around what that looks like, because that's just a huge amount of games. So, and then an art show, we are developing our artist row. We're up to 6 artists, and next year we'll probably go to 10. So we'll probably do something a little more formalized along that line, of that sort. Speaking of which, we have a featured artist each year, and this year it's Diesel LaForest. He's doing a very cool. We commission a piece from each of these guys each year, and he's doing a new take on a Strange Tales magazine cover, featuring sort of Cthulhu-y themed thing. And so we do that. We're going to do 30 prints, and he signs and numbers them, and we sell them at a price that exactly breaks even on the whole project, and it's good fun. So. We are going to go down that road, but we just need a few more artists first before we can do that.
Diesel is the greatest guy ever. I mean, there's a lot of great old school artists, but he's just the nicest one of them all.
So yeah, that's I'm trying to think of other events that we have going on. We instead of doing an auction, and also part of this is we don't want to compete with the other cons that do really good things. For instance, the North Texas has a really good auction. So I don't want to have people in the OS circuit think, gosh, which convention do I bring my stuff to? What's the better auction? They do a great job. They should be the premier auction of our circuit.
That's a good idea for, again, like you were saying, everybody getting together and kind of working complementary to each other's cons.
Yeah, there's no reason not to. I that's just my belief anyway. But
I know some of this from being behind the scenes, Alex. But I love the idea that you and Luke and Mike Battalato and Doug Ray are all in this together, strategizing the cons together for maximum connage.
Yeah. Let's make it as cool as possible for the attendees. I mean, we're flirting with. We haven't figured it out because we're still quite different, and that's great. Some sort of Uber pass that gets you into all three. That's we all keep talking about that as something that maybe we will do. But it's. But our diversity is also great. We want to be different, and if a con comes along and tries to copy Gary Con or copy Gamehole Con, that's silly. Why are you doing that? Do something else. Do whatever it is that. The reason that you decided to have a convention, go do your own thing. And so we while we are all working together, we are proud and happy to be different because, of course, we have different folks that attend our cons and a lot of folks who are the same. So it's yeah.
Yeah, and when it comes to cons that cover quote unquote everything fandom, I mean, there are a dime a dozen out there. It's nice that there are cons that at least somewhat narrow their focus, like you were saying, basically tabletop games for Gamehole Con, or old school RPGs only for North Texas. And
I agree. The fan cons are great, and they draw a lot of people, and certainly they skew especially quite young. And I'm glad that they're doing it. I think if those folks have fun, but we have a fairly large one here in town. I think it's happening next weekend, in fact. And gaming is just such an afterthought there. And I used to volunteer and run games there, but it was just they put us really, it's the back corner of the deepest part of the, away from everything. And hardly anyone plays so. Yeah,
a lot of the cons here in Dallas are like that. I mean, I don't think they mean to be that way, but it's just, people go to a con. They're not generally going there to game. So it's, like you said, stuck under the stairs or in a side corner.
Yeah. So, so we want, I mean, again, because of the composition of the Gamehole itself, all these guys and gals that we've played together for so many years, gaming will always be the thing, the focus. We have fun food and beverage and nutty stuff that's going on, sort of sideshow carnival style stuff, but it is all about the gaming. And quite frankly, this is going to be our first year trying live music. If that in any way interferes with people's ability to game, and where we try to schedule it so it's not, that's going to go, because it's this is an experiment to see. We have it sort of off in a wing that's kind of isolated, and we'll see how that goes. I think it's going to be fun, and I think it's going to be cool, but we'll see.
Speaking of food, what's the, for somebody who's staying at the hotel and everything, what is the food choices in that area?
Yeah, we are very cognizant of the fact that the vast majority of our attendees are weekend pass folks who come in for the entire weekend, so they'll be on campus the whole time. So because of that, the usual con fare just doesn't get it done, or I guess the exhibition hall fare. If you go to a trade show, whatever that subject is, if you want to go grab a hot dog or some nachos,
kiosk,
right, you can survive and get through to something else. But these people, the vast majority of our attendees are there the whole weekend. So the first 2 years what we did is the hotel did as well as they could, and that's okay. We had food trucks outside. We had rows of food trucks, and that served our attendees very well. So that was really cool.
That was the only way I got through Gen Con, because that Gen Con facility pizza needs to come with its own saving throw.
It's terrible.
Wow. It's hard to mess up pizza.
Trust me.
So terrible. So this year we're in the new facility, and we have 2 stories. And the bottom floor is going to have sort of common, burgers, hot dogs, stuff like that, sandwiches, grab and go kind of stuff. The upstairs is going to have a more of a bistro cafe, so it's going to have soups and salads and more upscale sandwiches and things like that, and new menus each day. We're actually planning out different things for each day. There'll be beer available in the downstairs bar, beer and cocktails upstairs. And there'll also be outside vendors that will have kiosks, so there'll be ice cream and pizza and things like that from actual restaurants that will be set up inside the hall itself. And we're working that all out now. I mean, we
plenty of energy drinks.
Yes. Sorry. There'll be lots of coffee.
Selfish preference.
Of coffee.
Sorry.
Nope. Yep. It's okay.
That's why God made coffee.
Well, that works too.
We're again cognizant of the fact that people are going to be there for hours and need to be able to get decent food. And Madison is a wonderful town for restaurants. If you've never been here, we've led the nation for years in per capita restaurants. It's a very restaurant heavy town, and we have some very good ones that are around the convention site itself. So I don't think anyone's going hungry.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a wide range of choice depending on how and what the quality of the food that somebody's wanting. I don't mean good or bad. I mean quick or slow or that sort of thing.
Sure. But no, that's something it's important. You get yucky food, and Gen Con is one of those. They've gotten by. Well, now they've done the food truck thing, and as Jim pointed out, that's a big deal. That's made it so much better, because trying to waiting in line for yucky food and overpriced food too, expensive bad food. That's just that's hard to take.
Yeah, the bad food's bad enough, but then add to insult, you're paying premium for it is just makes you annoyed. Makes me annoyed anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will certainly have a link to your website in the show notes. Is there any last questions anybody wants to throw out to wrap up?
I just want to thank you, Alex, for inviting me this year.
Oh no, I'm couldn't be happier that you accepted the invitation. That's great, and we're looking forward to having you. And we hope you come every year. It's very exciting to have new folks each year to show what we can do and what our convention's all about, and the way that we run it and how we try to pull it off. I mean, we want it just to be outstanding, and from every experience, from the way you interact with our site, with buying a badge and selecting games, to when you come, you're greeted warmly and you get a packet that has everything that I always wanted in a packet, which is my badge, lanyard, a schedule that makes sense, all my game tickets, and a program, and you hand it, and it's in a cool pouch, and you have it, so you have everything you need, and then you go, and it's very clear as to where you're going. You have a map of the convention floor that lays things out in very clear terms. So folks that are coming, let's say I should mention this. We have a separate track that we have seminars too, and a lot of conventions do, and we have some great ones. I mean, we have Peter Atkinson talking about when he bought TSR, and we have people like Chris Perkins, who's talking about what's happening with Dungeons and Dragons and all that. So we have those kind of great seminars. Frank is talking about the old school TSR days. Mm-hmm. We also have a separate track that is set aside and completely focused on game design. And that is put on by the folks here the company's called the Game Crafter. And I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're the largest print-on-demand gaming company. So you have an idea for a board game, you can go and they'll help you put it together and they'll print it for you. They're here in Madison, and some really cool guys. And anyway, they have their own track of seminars, of game design seminars, and there we share a lot of guests. For instance, Steve Jackson and John Kowalik, and a lot of our guests are going to be in their seminar track, because again, they're sponsors of ours and good friends. So if you are one of those folks who's coming really just for Crafter Con, which is our convention within a convention, it'll be very clear as to where you're going and where to see all this stuff, and to take that in. So again, we try to
fantastic. I'm sorry.
Well, no, we try to view everything from the view of the attendee. the problem with web design people is that they're web designers, and they don't have the intuitive lack of ability like I do. So I try to look at the site and say, now how can I screw this up? What is not clear here? And so I make my folks crazy about, can you make a bigger button? Can you make it in different colors? Can you, that kind of stuff. And the same thing with
I love clients like you.
Yeah, I know.
Give me a lens flare.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, and the same thing when they come into our show. We have there's a games desk. So instead of some kind of paper wall of games written on a board, here's what's available. We have scrolling monitors that you can see what's coming up in the next 3 slots and what's coming up. That's another one that's scrolling.
Sort of like an airport.
Yes, exactly. Because even I can find my gate, and I'm a moron when it comes to that stuff. So that's exactly the thinking. How can we make this as easy and user-friendly as possible? And the other thing that I think is cool that we do is we have a huge open gaming scene. That's another thing that bugs me about Gen Con. You can't go buy a game and find a place to sit down and play the damn thing. I mean, it's impossible. Unless you want to go to your hotel room. It's just impossible.
That's absolutely correct.
Wow, it's
kind of lame. Yeah, so we have a huge sea of open gaming tables, and there's a big whiteboard, so you can, if you want to come, and there's folks who just come and want to run games, and they write their name, and here's where I'm running at X o'clock, and people just go and play, and so it's we try to do all that. So anyway, the focus is on the attendee as far when you come in and you can find where you're going, and it should be intuitive. And it's a work in progress, but we're pretty damn proud of what we've been able to accomplish so far.
Well, Alex, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing this information.
And I couldn't be more tickled to be on and to talk with you folks. I've listened to many of your podcasts, and I love the one that you had with Bad Mike not too long ago because he's such a good buddy. It's good to hear him get some the credit that he's due for the hard work that he and Doug do for their excellent convention.
And hopefully we can get Jim to do a live report from the con.
We do have a podcast booth. If there's anyone that you look at our guest list and you would like to have a few minutes with any of them, we'll make that happen. If you want to sit down with Steve Jackson or Ed or whoever, we can give you some interview time. It's going to be pretty cool. There's a podcast booth, so it's closed on 3 sides, so attendees can walk by and see what's going on, but they can't, it's so they don't interfere. So it should be neat, I think.
Don't have the ubiquitous crowd noises so much in the background.
Yeah. Mike, I'm running a whole DCC tournament, so I'll try and squeeze that into all my spare time.
Oh yeah, okay.
All your spare time.
No, yeah. Jim's got an aggressive schedule, to say the least.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on the show.
Yes.
And anyone who's listening, if you happen to be in that area, check out Gamehole Con 2015.
Links will be in the show notes.
That's right. And we'll hopefully catch everybody at the next episode of Save or Die. Good night.
Good night.
Oh, we're not walking down any roads?
No.
Oh, okay. Goodbye.
Unless you really want to. Free arc. I think we're out. Are we out?
Podcast is a production of Wild Games Productions in association with D20Radio.com. The Save or Die theme music is provided by the band Mississippi Bones. You can find them at mississippibones.bandcamp.com. Promotional consideration for Gamehole Con was provided by the Wisconsin Department of Tabletop Tourism and the Association of Awesome RPGs. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Save or Die.
We're going to be talking about the Gamehole Con this episode with the coordinator and creator of the con. And scrap that. Let me do it again.
I thought we decided on this was a save for half episode. Am I still wrong?
Yeah.
So I killed myself getting the intro done today for absolutely no good reason.
That's why I thought I was telling you. You didn't have to worry about it because we'd only do a save for half today if something had happened and Alex couldn't show up.
I'm so ashamed.
Sorry.